dream of fame and success. But not all our dreams come true. What makes our achievers' dreams come true? Our guest today is Suhel Seth, not one to hold back his punches. He's a columnist, a branding guru, an ad man, a TV actor, and a socialite. Let's welcome Suhel. One of the most admired marketing and management gurus and a highly regarded columnist. Suhel, welcome to our show, Achievers.
Thank you for having me.
So Suhel, you wear many hats on your very salt and pepper curly hair. You're an ad man, you're a branding guru, you're an actor, you're a columnist, and you're also a socialite. Which role defines you best?
Neither, because, I think getting human beings into silos is the biggest mistake. Would you define Mahatma Gandhi as a lawyer, as an activist, as a freedom fighter? Would you say Nelson Mandela was a humanitarian, a zealot? Would you say he was someone who gave South Africa freedom? And what's happening is, over time, I'm seeing descriptions have become very important in the world. So if someone were to ask me what I'd be, just a normal guy who enjoys living every moment of his life, not worrying about what's going to happen next.
Did you always have a very clear vision of where you wanted to be in your life? Which direction you wanted to head?
On the contrary, no. When I was growing up, I was very keen on becoming a police officer because I wanted to beat up rogue politicians. Then that kind of changed. And for years, I pursued theater. And I said to myself that my life would be really well lived if I could find myself a home, very small, with an attic where I could rehearse and get, our team to rehearse. But I think life has been exceedingly kind. And the worst kind of life is when you plan. I'm not going to use the old cliche of, what man proposes, blah, blah, blah. But because you want to live for the moment and you live in the present, there is a lot to learn from life. You must seize opportunities that present themselves before you. You mustn't go out and be greedy for opportunities. The mistake that most human beings make is they treat life as a moving target. Life isn't a dartboard. It's not about saying, okay, today I must get into zone A, tomorrow I must get into zone B. You've got to actually enjoy the zone you're in.
So you're saying go with the flow?
Well, go with the flow, to my mind, is more punk logic than reality. I would say go with what presents itself before you. And judge yourself on 3 counts. A, are you competent to take up that opportunity? B, will you be credible while taking up that opportunity? And C, will you invoke, or will it invoke passion in you? If it does these 3 things, I don't think you need to worry.
But you've always been a very creative soul. You must have known earlier on in your childhood that creativity is within you.
No, on the contrary, and I'm not being, falsely humble here. All my life, I was involved in the sciences. Yes, one thing which my parents taught me was the art of reading and the importance of scholarship. We've got to read. You've got to be interesting. You've got to have a worldview. You can't be tunnel visioned. You can't create a life which only celebrates one aspect of this planet and not the other. So to that extent, we were creative, or I was creative. But I always wanted to do things which would be off the beaten path. So in school, and I was a pure science student, when people would go home and do biology tutorials, I'd actually go and watch films. And I think a lot of it, Sadia, is also relevant to where we grew up. I grew up in Calcutta, which was the cradle of civility, not just civilization, it was the cradle of civility. It was the cradle of culture. People to this day in Calcutta don't ask you what you do. They respect you for what you are. And it's a city which allows you to breathe the cultural environment to its fullest. They celebrate the fact that you can go out and watch a play. They don't judge you. In most cities, if you said, oh, I want to watch theater, I want to go for a play, they'd either classify you as someone who has no work or someone who's being pretentious about culture. But in Calcutta, these were real things. Debating happened in the same way. Public speaking was, to my mind, an adjunct to what you did in theater. The ability to speak. But everyone says, oh, but why public speaking? People don't realize that if you're debating, and if you're addressing people in large numbers, public speaking forces you to be two things, logical and crisp. Often enough, we are a world of ramblers. We don't come to the point because we don't know where we're going and we don't know what we want to communicate. So there was theater, which allowed you to express yourself in a believable, honorable manner, which would help you engage with the audiences. And then there was debating, which allowed you to maintain a certain logical air to what you were saying. So in both cases, the end result was engagement with the audience and believability, which shouldn't be sacrificed.
So coming back to your debating, you were an amazing debater growing up, and you still debate both nationally and internationally. Do you think that the skill set you acquired while debating has helped your career?
I'm sure it has, because as I said, the ability to communicate logically and with conviction will help you no matter what you're doing. You could be a receptionist in a call center, you could be someone doing a television program, you could be someone who's filming shows, a production executive. You could also be a chief executive. And if you look around us, we've lost the art of public speaking globally. You know, we quote from Steve Jobs' commencement day speech at Stanford, and we remember, stay hungry, be foolish. But the days of Lincolnian addresses, what Churchill brought to the world, you know, those celebratory speechcraft, that celebratory speechcraft is missing.
Why do you think that's the case?
Because I don't think people are involved with the world beyond their, you know, puny little tunnels. People don't want to explore. When was the last time you went out and saw two swans actually having a conversation in a nearby park? We've stopped doing that. We lead hurried lives. And when you lead a hurried life, the only thing you sacrifice is the calmness of the environment that you're part of, which you can't actually get away from. So I think, to answer your question, of course it would have helped me in my career. I think both public speaking and theater allows you to do, you know, the right enunciation, the right intonation, you know, the right pronunciation.
But don't you think the most important tool public speaking gives you, or debating gives you, is confidence? And you have an abundance of confidence both on screen and off screen.
I think a lot of engineers are confident, those who are writing software programs. I think people who are cameramen in films or television are very confident. But it's not about confidence which can't be exuded. So to that end, you're absolutely right. What public speaking allows you to do is transfer your confidence to a bunch of people who are not part of your immediate career path or your universe. So it's that engagement which it allows for.
And in your interviews, you've spoken very fondly of your parents. And so what role did they play in your success?
I think they played the most important role, and they continue to. See, I'm a great believer that we are not birds. You know, we don't live in nests and then throw out the bird when the bird is ready to fly and then have no relationship with parents. To my mind, parental relationships are I would say, the most critical. Because you've got to respect parents for two or three things. Number one, they are the ones who have unconditional love. A parent never has conditionalities to love. Number two, they have unabashed forgiveness. They will forgive you all your sins, including murder. And we've seen stories across the world of parents actually going out and defending their wards. And the third thing is, they will give you advice which doesn't have an agenda. Where else would you get people like that?
Your parents were very supportive of your choices? You wanted to be an actor at an early age?
Well, they weren't, but then they knew that I was one stubborn bloke. I did pure science, and you know, I got into IIT, which is the premier technology institute, and then I decided that I'd study English literature, and my father almost had a stroke, saying, you know, there are very few people in those days, out of a country of 20 million people who'd apply for IIT, about 700 would get in. And it was a surefire career path. But then I wouldn't be on this couch. I'd be somewhere in Silicon Valley and you wouldn't have heard of me.
Yeah.
So why would I do that?
But you took your stand.
I took my stand, and it was a reasoned stand. I told my parents, up to class 12, I did what you wanted me to do. Now you must allow me the convenience of pursuing my path.
So you debated your way through that.
Absolutely. Which is why I say logic is an extremely attractive ingredient in, you know, moving on in life.
Skill set well learned. You started your career working in various advertising agencies, and then you started your own advertising agency with your brother Aquas. Following that, you started your company called Consolage. Tell us a little about Consolage.
Well, let me just rewind. I only worked with one agency. I've been a pretty loyal person in terms of career. I worked with Ogilvy. I started as a management trainee in 1990 at a princely salary of 650 rupees, to which my dad told me that our chauffeur earned about 4 times as much, but that was irrelevant. And from Ogilvy, I joined a company to market tobacco products, which I shouldn't have done, but I was doing my job. Then I joined Peregrine in Hong Kong,
Why
which is
shouldn't
an
you have done
investment
that?
bank.
Sorry to interrupt you, but why shouldn't you have done that?
I think I harm myself. I'm not so worried about how many consumers I must have harmed. But in the process, you harm yourself. Then I joined an investment bank, and then I started Equus. And I asked Martin Sorrell to be a partner, Martin Sorrell, WPP. But I got tired of advertising. And I got tired pretty soon. I was meeting these young marketing managers who hadn't stepped out of their ivory towers, air-conditioned and plushly carpeted at that. They didn't know the market. They didn't want to travel. There was no cerebral engagement. You know, when we were in advertising, we'd go out and have a drink with a client. It was a relationship of equals. I've often said in my speeches, and advertising people are still gluttons for punishment to keep inviting me back, and I've said, advertising agencies crawl when asked to walk. That relationship today is one of civility. It's not one of equality. In 2006, April 1, it wasn't a Fool's Day program, I decided to retire. I had enough money to lead a reasonable life. And then I met someone from the House of Tatas, and Mr. Tata and Mr. Krishna Kumar told me, you know, what the hell are you doing? How can you retire at such a young age? So I said, you know, I'm relaxed. It's a good life. What do you want to do? I said, I only want to advise chairpersons and CEOs, and I want to charge the earth. That's how Counselage began. So it began on the back of very strong and solid relationships.
But were you that confident you could charge the earth and get the right clients?
For the simple reason that there are 2 ways of playing any marketing game. Either you go through volume and you're a detergent, or you go through value and you're a bejeweled watch. Which one would you like?
I'll go for the watch.
Simple. So there's no rocket science to this. So when I was told, why would you charge the earth? I said, A, it allows me to get rid of all the fluff and the faff. B, if you charge a whole host of money sums, people listen to you with more seriousness. Otherwise, they don't, you know, heed the advice you give.
But wasn't your brother working with you in Aquas?
Yeah, and my brother continues to run the advertising agency.
But he was okay with you going your separate ways?
Absolutely. You know, I'd run Equus from 1996 to 2006 for 10 years. It was his business now, and, you know, he's running it. I don't get involved. I don't even know what they do, which clients they work with. The ability must not be to always live in the past. History is a country without any inhabitants.